What does a man become when the thing that defined him for 40 years suddenly stops? Not because he failed, not because he had to, but because time, like the road, keeps moving forward whether you're ready or not. David Coleman was 62 years old. He'd been driving since he was 22. 40 years. 4 decades of highways and truck stops and sunrises seen through a windshield. 40 years of diesel fuel and CB chatter and the steady hum of an engine that felt more like home than any house ever did. And today, on a cold November morning with frost still clinging to the grass outside the freight yard, David Coleman was about to make his last run. Nashville to Atlanta, 300 miles. Nothing special. Standard freight, standard route. He'd made this trip 200 times if he'd made it once. But today, it felt different. Because after this load, after he pulled back into the yard and signed the final paperwork, he was done, retired, finished. And the thought of it sat in his chest like a stone, heavy, immovable, real. David stood in the yard, staring at the rig. Same model he'd been driving for 15 years, knew every inch of it, every sound it made, every quirk. He ran his hand along the side of the trailer, cold metal under his palm, familiar, solid. Who are you without this? The thought came unbidden, unwelcome, but there it was. Who was David Coleman if he wasn't a driver? He climbed into the cab slowly. His knees protested. His back ached the way it always did these days. 40 years of sitting in the same position, sleeping in narrow bunks, lifting heavy straps. The body kept score. He settled into the driver's seat, adjusted the mirrors out of habit, even though they were already perfect, put his hands on the wheel, took a breath. This is it, he thought. Last time. The engine started with a familiar rumble. David closed his eyes for just a second, listened. He'd heard this sound 10,000 times, maybe more. It was the sound of leaving, of going somewhere, of purpose. And after today, he'd never hear it again. Not like this. He put the truck in gear and pulled out of the yard. The sun was just starting to rise. The sky was pale gray, streaked with pink. Beautiful. David had seen more sunrises than most people ever would, but he'd stopped noticing them years ago. They were just part of the job, part of the routine. Now he noticed. Now every detail felt significant. The way the light hit the highway, the cold air coming through the cracked window, the CB radio crackling to life with morning chatter, all of it, everything, because it was the last time. The miles passed, 50, 100. David drove on autopilot, 40 years of muscle memory guiding him. He didn't need to think about it. His hands knew when to shift, his eyes knew where to check, his body knew the rhythm of the road. But his mind was somewhere else, wandering through memories. His first truck, a beat-up old Freightliner with a temperamental clutch and a heater that barely worked. He'd been so proud of that truck, so proud to have his CDL, so ready to prove himself. He thought about his kids, 2 daughters, both grown now with families of their own. How many of their school plays had he missed? How many birthdays? How many moments that you can't get back? He'd told himself it was worth it, that he was providing, building a future. And maybe he was, but there was a cost. There's always a cost. He thought about Beth, his wife of 38 years. She'd never complained, not really. She understood, or at least she said she did. But he saw it in her eyes sometimes, the loneliness, the waiting, the dinners eaten alone, the bed half empty. She deserved better, but she stayed. And now, finally, he'd be home, every day, every night. And that should feel like a gift. So why did it feel like losing something? David pulled into a truck stop just outside Chattanooga. Needed fuel, needed coffee, needed a minute to clear his head. He parked the rig, killed the engine, climbed down. His legs were stiff. He stretched, feeling his spine crack, walked towards the building. Inside, the truck stop was busy. Drivers grabbing food, checking their phones, talking in clusters. David grabbed a cup of coffee, black, no sugar, the way he'd been drinking it for 40 years. He paid and walked back outside, leaned against the side of his truck, sipped the coffee. It was terrible, burnt, weak, perfect. A younger driver walked past, maybe 30, gave David a nod. David nodded back. The kid stopped, looked at the truck, then at David. "That your rig?" "Yeah, she's a beauty. Bet she's seen some miles." David smiled faintly. "Phew." The kid grinned. "I just started solo runs last year, still getting used to it." David studied him, saw himself 40 years ago, all nerves and determination. "It gets easier," David said. "The loneliness?" David paused, then shook his head. "No, that stays, but you learn to live with it." The kid looked like he wanted to say something else, but David turned away, finished his coffee, tossed the cup, climbed back into the cab. As he pulled out of the truck stop, David glanced in the side mirror, saw the young driver still standing there, watching. And David thought, that's how it works. One generation drives, another takes over. The road doesn't stop, only the drivers do. The last 100 miles felt longer than the first 200. David didn't rush, stayed in the right lane, let the other trucks pass him. There was no hurry now, no deadline that mattered. He thought about what came next, retirement. The word sounded strange in his head, foreign. What did retired truckers even do? Fish? Play golf? Sit on the porch and watch the world go by? He'd never been good at sitting still, never been good at quiet. The road had always given him something to do, somewhere to be. Without it, what was left? He thought about Beth again, imagined walking through the front door for the last time, imagined her face when she realized he was really done, really home for good. She'd be happy, he knew that. But would he? Would he know how to be a husband who was actually there? Would he know how to fill the hours? Would he know how to be David Coleman when David Coleman had been a trucker for so long he couldn't remember who he was before? The Atlanta skyline appeared on the horizon. David felt his chest tighten. This was it, the last stretch. He followed the GPS to the warehouse, back to the trailer into the dock. Perfect reverse, 40 years of practice. He climbed out, signed the paperwork, shook hands with the dock supervisor. No one knew this was his last run. He hadn't told anyone, didn't want the fuss, didn't want the speeches. This was between him and the road didn't need words.
Now, before we finish this journey together, if this story is touching something in you, if you're thinking about your own last run or honoring someone who already made theirs, do something for me. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, share this video with a driver who's facing this moment. Leave a comment. Tell us what the road meant to you, because every driver's story matters. Every mile counts, and every ending deserves to be witnessed. Stay with us, because what David does next, it's something every driver needs to hear. David drove the empty rig back toward Nashville. No cargo now, just him and the truck. The afternoon sun was low in the sky, warm light filling the cab. He thought about taking a detour, driving longer, stretching it out. But what was the point? It had to end sometime. Might as well be now. He pulled into the freight yard just before 5. The lot was half empty. Most of the drivers were still out on runs. David parked the truck in his usual spot, near the back fence, away from the main office. He sat there for a long time, engine off, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. This was the moment, the end. He waited for something, some big feeling, some wave of emotion, but it didn't come. Just quiet, just stillness, just the fading light and the distant sound of traffic on the highway. David picked up his phone, called Beth. "Hey," she said, her voice soft, familiar. "Hey, you on your way home?" "Yeah, I'm just—" He stopped. "What?" "I'm at the yard. I'm done." Silence on the other end. Then her voice, quieter now. "You're really done?" "Yeah, I'm really done." "How do you feel?" He thought about it. "Honest, I don't know." "That's okay," she said. "You don't have to know yet. I'll be home in 20 minutes. I'll be here." He hung up, sat for another minute. Then he opened the door, climbed down, stood beside the truck, ran his hand along the side one more time. "Thanks," he said quietly, "for everything." Then he walked away, didn't look back, because if he looked back, he might not leave, and it was time to leave. David pulled into his driveway just as the sun was setting. The house looked the same as it always did, small, neat, home. But this time it felt different, because this time he wasn't leaving again in 2 days. He killed the engine, sat in the car, stared at the front door. Beth opened it before he could get out, stood on the porch, waiting. David got out slowly, walked toward her. She didn't say anything, just looked at him. "I'm home," he said. "I know." "For good this time?" "I know." He stopped at the bottom of the steps. "How do I do this, Beth? How do I just stop?" She smiled, sad but warm. "One day at a time, just like everything else." He climbed the steps. She took his hand. "Come on, dinner's ready." They went inside. The house smelled like pot roast, his favorite. David sat at the kitchen table while Beth set the plates. She moved around the kitchen with easy familiarity. This was her space, her routine, and he was stepping into it, trying to find where he fit. They ate in comfortable silence. After dinner, David helped with the dishes. It felt strange, domestic, normal. Later, they sat on the couch, watched some TV show David couldn't focus on. Beth fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. David stayed awake, listening to her breathe, feeling the weight of her against him. This was it. This was the life he'd driven away from for 40 years, and now he was here, and he didn't know what to do with it. But maybe that was okay. Maybe not knowing was part of it. Maybe the road had taught him to navigate uncertainty, how to keep moving even when you don't know what's ahead. Maybe he could do that here too, in this house, in this life, one day at a time. The next morning, David woke up early, old habit, but there was no truck to prep, no route to plan, just silence. He made coffee, stood by the kitchen window, watched the sun come up. Beth came downstairs, found him there. "You okay?" He thought about it. "Yeah, I think so." She poured herself coffee, stood beside him. "What are you going to do today?" He smiled, faintly. "I have no idea." She laughed. "Well, that's a start." They stood there together, watching the light fill the yard, and David realized something. The road didn't define him, it shaped him. There's a difference. Everything he learned out there, the patience, the endurance, the ability to keep going when things got hard, that was still part of him. The truck was gone, but the driver remained. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was everything. David turned to Beth. "You want to go for a drive?" She raised an eyebrow. "A drive?" "Yeah, just around. No destination, no deadline. Just drive." She smiled. "I'd like that." They got in the car, David behind the wheel, Beth beside him, and they drove. Through their town, past familiar streets, past places they'd lived their whole lives but never really looked at. And David felt something shift. Not loss, not grief, just change. The road was still there. It would always be there. But he didn't need to chase it anymore. He could just be, here, now, present, with the person who'd waited for him all these years. And that, he realized, was its own kind of journey. The road doesn't end when you stop driving. It lives in you, in the way you see the world, in the patience you carry, in the quiet strength that comes from knowing you've been through hard things and survived. David Coleman drove for 40 years, and when he stopped, he didn't lose himself. He found the parts of himself the road had been protecting all along, the parts that knew how to endure, how to adapt, how to keep moving forward even when the path changes. Retirement isn't the end, it's just a different road, one without mile markers or delivery schedules, one where the destination isn't a warehouse or a freight yard. It's home, it's presence, it's the people you love. And sometimes the bravest thing a driver can do isn't taking on another load, it's knowing when to park the truck and walk away, with gratitude, with dignity, with the knowledge that the road will always be there. But life, real life, won't wait forever. Every road has a hero, not because they drove the farthest, but because they knew when the journey was complete, and they had the courage to step into what comes next.